There's no one quite like Emily. Fearing divisive Emily. Ask the fans and they'll admit her own following is quite split. And if you watch the show, then you'll undoubtedly know her character flip-flops around. So what's the deal with Emily? For years, Emily's character and place in the show has been a topic of hot debate in the fandom. Over the course of the show, her character has changed constantly, leading to many inconsistencies. Depending on each fan's likes and preferences, some will say her portrayal in Season 7 was best. It was her original characterization, where she was much kinder and more motherly. Others say she was better in the Hit era, where she had more clearly defined characteristics. There's also her CGI portrayal as well, but almost no one prefers that version of her to my knowledge.
Your face is very strange.
As if to further the controversy, she became the 8th member of the cast, leading some people to think she replaced Duck. And since Henry's character was also changed, some people think she replaced him as the third big engine. With all this going on, along with the Hit era's changes to the show, it landed her in deep controversy and she's never escaped since. So how do we find a compromise? Is there anywhere in the show where it balances both her main character portrayals? Actually, there is. Not only is it one of her best portrayals in my opinion, but also one of the best Hit era episodes. That episode is Emily's New Route. Let's dive in. In this episode, the Fat Controller is offering some new services on the railway, and assigns Emily to pulling a flour mill special. Upon sharing her news with James, she learns he also has a new job, as he's assigned to the Black Lock Run. But he is not too pleased with it, describing what he's been told about his job, as well as the legend of the Black Lock Monster.
There are boulders all over the tracks, he moaned. They bash your buffers and scratch your paint. And there's the Black Lock Monster.
Quick side note here, but I really love this continuity. His description of the avalanche and the fear of the monster have both been set up in the previous season in Bad Day at Castle Lock. This leads me to believe that Donald Douglas told the story to James after the fact, but highlighted only the parts he wouldn't like. This is the kind of thing I could see them doing, and could be an entire story in and of itself. Anyways, where was I? Oh yeah, Emily goes to collect the flour, but the trucks decide to hold back and make her late. This upsets the Top Hat, who is disappointed at the loss of his breakfast. They don't call him the Fat Controller for nothing. I know jokes about the Fat Controller's eating habits aren't everyone's cup of tea, pun intended, but I think they're kind of funny, and they're much better than him falling down or splitting his pants.
Oh, the indignity.
He decides to put her on the Black Lock Run if she proves to be unreliable with his service. The next day, the trucks decide to use her own fears against her and trick her into taking only half the train. I really like how devious they're shown to be here, as they use her fears to not only scare her, but also set her up for failure and essentially cause her fears to come true. Instead of holding back, they switch tactics to get inside her head. This works as she only delivers half the train and has to go back for the rest. But they push their luck too far when they start jeering at her, as her fear turns to anger and she charges into the trucks and causes a large crash. And this is the final mistake she was trying so hard to prevent from happening. Not only have the trucks won, but she's also been given the Black Lock Run. Thomas encourages her to go in with an open mind, but the impression left by James is still stuck in her head. Nevertheless, she resolves to push through when she sees how excited her passengers are. But as soon as she comes to the lock, a landslide occurs, confirming what James said, and completely shuts down any notion of this route being anything but trouble.
I knew I wouldn't like this route, she huffed.
And this is further confirmed when she sees ripples in the water, leading her to believe the monster is approaching. Under the circumstances, she's terrified and wants nothing more than to run away. But the turn comes when she remembers her passengers and their excitement. So she tries to ignore all her negative assumptions and resolves to keep them safe and stick through to the end. And as soon as she does, she starts to see things for what they really are. Rather than a terrifying monster, it's a family of seals. And not long after, the avalanche is cleared up and she can continue with her journey. At the end of the day, she and Thomas look out to the lock at the sunset, taking in its beauty and watching the seals. This episode is great because it manages to hit just the right balance of Emily's character. Rather than being bossy or rude, her anger only comes out when faced with the looming fear. Both of these emotions can easily lead to rash decision making and end in disaster. But when faced with fear a second time, she remembers the children and stands firm, thus growing from her previous accident. This is reminiscent of her Season 7 character, who was much kinder and more caring of others, putting the needs of others before herself, even in the face of danger. It highlights the most prominent characteristics from both eras. They also take full advantage of the fact that she's a new character on the island, as she has never been to Blacklock and blindly accepts the testimony of a longtime resident. It also gives her a special job and branch line, and takes the next big step towards becoming a main character later on. It's kind of fun that she's the one to run this route, as she's supposed to be Scottish in the UK dub, and this line connects to the Scottish castle. This episode also teaches a lesson in jumping to conclusions based on limited knowledge and judging before you give something a chance. and if you give it a fair shake, you might find something new to enjoy. Jumping into conclusions is a common mistake even the best of us can make, and something I've done quite a lot. But this moral is very relevant to both her character and the hit era in general. On the surface, Emily can be seen as inconsistent, an engine the writers only use because she's a girl, and they keep pushing for gender equality. But if you give her a chance, take a minute to really appreciate who she is and what makes her tick, you can find something pretty special. The same goes for the hit era as well. It made many changes that angered fans, and sometimes seems like garbage only a 5-year-old could enjoy. But it still introduced fan-favorite characters, had plenty of great action, music, and dynamics we love to see, and some generally good stories to tell. And it seems like lots of people are constantly finding a gem of an episode that sticks out to them, or highlights something special. And I get the impression a lot of fans are finally giving this era a chance, and seeing it in a new light, just like what Emily does here. And pairing that with the way they handle Emily's character here, I'd say this episode does something really special, and is a stark contrast to an episode like Forever and Ever. By having Gordon betray the fans and freak out about all the changes the show was going through, and having Nia confront him about it, that episode tells us viewers, we hear you, we know you don't like the changes we made to the show, and guess what? We don't care! There's nothing you can do, so you might as well accept it. But this episode has a different approach. To me it says, this may not be what you wanted, we've made a lot of changes, and many of them are ones you won't like. But if you give it a chance, it might not be as bad as you think. I know I'm starting to sound like a broken record repeating this moral, but that's why I love this episode so much. It had a great story to tell, continued off elements from the classic series that left me wanting to see more of the story. It hit a great balance between Emily's most notable character portrayals, gave her a special job of her own, and rolled it up all into one great package. So to anyone watching who's written Emily off for her controversy, I recommend you give this episode a try. And not just for Emily, it could be anything you've disregarded without giving it a chance. And if you still don't like it after that, that's perfectly fine. You've now given it a chance, and it's not your thing. That's part of what makes you unique. If you give it a chance and have a valid reason to not like it, at least you've tried it. And that's all I can really ask of you. Even I've given All Legends Go a fair shot, and I didn't enjoy it, but I'm aware it has its fans, and I respect that. I just hope you can see why I love this episode so much, and maybe see what I see in Emily, the Emerald Engine. Sometimes writers mess her up, and some say she is no good. But it's really not her fault, she's just misunderstood. There's no one quite like Emily, fearing divisive Emily. But even if our views are split, it's for the best, we all admit. This story's not that bad compared to the rest we've had. It's got a certain you-know-what and has the best of Emily. Hey guys, thanks for watching the video. Sorry this month's video was a bit shorter than my usual content. I just needed to scale things down between my larger projects, and since I mentioned I like to cover this episode in detail, I just went for it. As I said in a community post recently, I'm planning to do another character ranking for the next video, but I can't promise when it's coming out. In the meantime, if you haven't seen my video ranking the best and worst episodes of the hit era, I recommend you check it out. It took a long time to make, but I enjoyed it nonetheless. And lastly, thank you to everyone whose names are now on screen for the use of their music in this video. All the music is linked in the description. Thank you all for watching, and as always, stay really useful.